Someone tells you that you did a great job, and instead of saying thank you, you say, "Oh, it was nothing. Honestly, anyone could have done it. I almost messed the whole thing up. You should see what Sarah did. Hers was way better." And now you're basically arguing someone out of complimenting you, like a lawyer, for the prosecution, against yourself. Sound familiar? Because that right there, that instinctive, almost allergic reaction to being praised, is not humility. It's not modesty. It's a psychological pattern with deep roots, and once you understand what's actually happening, you'll never deflect the same way again. Let's make this even more specific. Someone compliments your outfit, you say, "This old thing." Someone says you're really smart. You laugh and list 3 things you got wrong last week. Someone tells you they're proud of you, and you physically don't know what to do with your face. You smile, you look away, you change the subject faster than a politician dodging a question. And here's the kicker. You're not doing this to be fake modest. You genuinely feel uncomfortable. Like accepting the compliment is somehow dangerous. Like agreeing with something good someone said about you would jinx it, or expose you, or make you look arrogant. So you deflect every single time, almost automatically. Here's where it gets interesting. What you're experiencing has a name. Psychologists call it positive affect intolerance, and yes, that's exactly what it sounds like. An inability to sit comfortably inside positive emotional experiences. Here's what's happening neurologically. Your brain has spent years building a model of who you are. And that model, your self-concept, is built from repetition, feedback, and emotional memory. If your self-concept has been shaped by criticism, high standards, or not enoughness, then a compliment doesn't feel like confirmation. It feels like a contradiction. And your brain doesn't like contradictions. It treats them as threats to be neutralized. So it kicks in with deflection, not to be polite, but to resolve the cognitive dissonance as fast as possible. In other words, the compliment felt wrong, not because you're broken, but because it didn't match the story your brain has been telling about you for years. Now here's the thing most people assume. They think compliment deflectors have low self-esteem, that they're just sad, insecure people who can't see their own worth. And sometimes that's true. But here's the twist. A lot of compliment deflectors are actually high achievers. People with incredibly high internal standards. People who are their own harshest critics not because they think they're worthless, but because they're always measuring themselves against a version of themselves that doesn't exist yet, an ideal, a future self they haven't caught up to. So when someone praises the current version, it feels premature. Like being given a trophy for a race you haven't finished. And accepting it feels wrong, like lying. But this is the part nobody talks about. There's a second layer underneath the deflection, and it's about conditional worth. For a lot of people, and this goes back further than you might want to go, love and praise were conditional growing up. Not in a dramatic, traumatic way necessarily. Just in the quiet, consistent way where approval followed performance, where you were praised when you did well, when you were good, when you succeeded, when you were useful. And when that's the pattern long enough, your brain learns something insidious. I am only as good as my last result. Worth is not a baseline. Worth is earned, and it must be re-earned, constantly. So when someone gives you a compliment, your brain immediately starts auditing it. Do I actually deserve this? What did I do to earn it? What if they knew the full picture? What if I can't do it again? Psychologists call this the imposter dynamic, not full imposter syndrome, but the underlying pattern of feeling like praise is based on incomplete information. Like people are complimenting a highlight reel and you know what's in the deleted scenes, and this changes everything. If you're watching this and feeling deeply, uncomfortably seen, good. That means we're in the right place. Because I want to say something directly to you. The fact that you deflect compliments doesn't mean you're broken or damaged or hopelessly self-sabotaging. It means you've been operating under a set of rules about worth and performance that someone or some environment installed in you a long time ago. Rules you never consciously agreed to. Rules that made sense in their original context and have been running on autopilot ever since. You're not self-destructing, you're executing an old program. And the people who deflect most aggressively, They're often the most genuinely self-aware, emotionally intelligent people in the room. They deflect because they take things seriously, because they hold themselves to real standards, because they'd rather understate than overstate. That's not a character flaw. That's actually a form of integrity, just one that's gotten slightly miscalibrated. Here's where the research gets genuinely fascinating. A study published in the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology found that people with lower self-worth didn't just struggle to receive compliments, they actively experienced them as destabilizing. Brain imaging showed heightened activity in the anterior cingulate cortex, the region associated with detecting conflict and error, when low self-worth participants received praise inconsistent with their self-concept. In other words, your brain literally processes an unexpected compliment the same way it processes a mistake. But here's the part that should actually change how you think about this. The same study found that with repeated, conscious acceptance of positive feedback, not fake affirmations, not toxic positivity, but genuine acknowledgement of real things, the threat response decreased over time. The brain updated its model. Your self-concept is not fixed, it is a living document. And every time you let a compliment land, really land, you are quietly editing the story your brain tells about who you are. That's not soft, that's neuroscience. Now let's go somewhere a little more honest. For some people, deflecting compliments isn't just about self-concept, it's about safety. If you grew up in an environment where being seen led to being criticized, where standing out invited scrutiny, where doing well got you more pressure, not more space, then visibility itself became a threat. Praise didn't signal safety. Praise signaled more expectations, more to live up to, more ways to eventually disappoint. So you learned to shrink the target. Don't let anyone think too highly of you. Don't let the bar get set somewhere you might not be able to reach. Deflect the compliment, manage the expectation, stay below the radar. That was smart, genuinely smart. In the environment you were in, that strategy protected you. Here's where it gets interesting again though. That environment is probably not your environment anymore, but the strategy is still running, and now it's not protecting you. It's just keeping you small in a world that's actually ready to see you. Full stop. Here's the belief underneath all of this. Accepting a compliment means claiming something I might not deserve, and I want to dismantle that completely. Accepting a compliment is not a claim of perfection. It is not an agreement that you've peaked, that you're done growing, that you've solved yourself. It is simply an acknowledgement that in this moment, this person saw something real, and you can let that be true. Thank you is not arrogance. Thank you is not delusion. Thank you is not a contract guaranteeing you'll be this good forever. It is literally just two words that honor the fact that someone paid attention and that what they saw was worth seeing. The most genuinely confident people, not the loudest, not the most performatively self-assured, but the actually grounded in themselves confident people. They accept compliments cleanly, not because they think they're perfect, but because they've stopped arguing with evidence that contradicts their worst fears about themselves. They let the good thing be true, not forever, just right now. You can do that too. So here's where we end up. You don't deflect compliments because you're weak. You deflect them because somewhere along the way, you learned that your worth was conditional, that visibility was risky, and that the gap between how people see you and how you see yourself was too wide to bridge with a simple thank you. But that gap, it's not evidence that the compliment is wrong. It's evidence that your self-concept hasn't caught up with your actual growth yet. And that is a fixable problem. Not through affirmations, not through forcing yourself to feel confident, but through the quiet, consistent act of letting good things land. One compliment at a time. One thank you that you don't immediately follow with a but. One moment where you let someone's perception of you be more accurate than your fear. That's the work. It's not glamorous, but it's real. And it starts the next time someone tells you that you did something well. And instead of dismantling it, you just breathe, look them in the eye and say, thank you. That's it. That's the whole move. Now, if this hit home, there's a reason it hit this hard. Because people who struggle to accept compliments almost always have one more thing in common. They're also the ones who apologize constantly. for taking up space, for having needs, for existing at a volume that might inconvenience someone else. And that pattern, compulsive apologizing, has its own psychological framework, its own roots, and its own very specific way out. That's exactly what the next video breaks down. And if you've made it to the end of this one, I already know you need to see it. It's right there. Don't deflect this one.